Occasionally, a minor coincidence can lead to profound consequences. It hinges on being at the right place at the right time, a situation that could affect anyone. This video presents 3 stories that challenge our trust in appearances. If you're curious to learn more, I encourage you to watch and discover these tales. The rope in the lake. For Charles, a 10-year-old Estonian boy, seemed like any other day, as weekends usually were. He was in the countryside with his family. The weather was beautiful with clear blue skies. Charles happily ran to his parents and told them he was going to Kanepi Lake. This lake is located in the middle of nowhere with no navigation system. Charles liked it because he was a little adventurer. He felt like he was the first human to discover this place, and he liked it. However, he was about to find something he would never have imagined. His attention was caught by a rope floating on the surface of the water, half buried in the mud. His instinct told him to pull on it until it came out completely. He struggled as hard as he could, but it was useless. It was as if something very heavy was hanging from the rope. What could it be? The little boy could not repress his curiosity and ran back to his parents, asking for help. They knew he was a very curious child and did not want to frustrate him. The 3 of them decided to pull on the rope and managed to drag it a few centimeters towards them. Then the boy saw something shimmering under the surface of the water and asked his parents if it was a ship that had sunk. Are you starting to get an idea of what was there? A group of men who were also strolling through the woods at the time noticed 3 people worried about something by the lake. They approached them and offered to help. Charles was overjoyed because he would finally uncover the mystery. Together, they began to pull on the rope until the object that was tied to the other end was almost at the surface. One of the men noticed strange symbols on the side of the object. They began to feel insecure because no one had any idea what that shiny metal might be. Even if they managed to bring it to the surface, it could be dangerous, so it was time to ask the authorities for help. A large brigade was called in with special equipment so that the strange, heavy object could finally be brought to the surface. It was surprising what they found. It turns out that Charles had found a World War II tank. The amazing thing is that it was undamaged, even though it had been submerged. It remained intact after more than 5 decades. It was later determined that the war vehicle had been there for 56 years. It was apparently a Soviet model of T-34-76A, weighing about 27 tons and with a top speed of about 53 kilometers per hour. After some tinkering, they even started the engine. The next question was, why was the tank in the water when it had obviously not been attacked at any time? There are several theories on this, but the most prevalent is that the Russian army abandoned it in the lake to ensure that the enemy could not take it. Another opinion states that it had fallen into the hands of the Germans, but they did not want to use it, so they made it disappear so that the Russians would not recover it. Once the machine was completely out of the water, they planned to restore it and put it on display at the Bovington Museum. We see that Charles' curiosity was well-founded and that he got a real treasure through his perseverance. Of historic discovery, Danish Therese Risgaard is also very curious. She studied to be a dental assistant, but she also has a passion for going out with a metal detector to look for treasures in the ground. She was even a member of a club of amateur archaeologists, and in 2018, they went on a treasure hunt on Yarno Island off the Danish coast. Once on site, they approached a beach. Of course, they had all brought their detectors. Less than 10 years ago, special statues dating back to the Stone Age, almost 7,000 years ago, had been found on this island. It was an incredible discovery that archaeologists are still analyzing. For efficiency, the island was therefore a good place to find precious items. After walking for a while, Therese heard a sound her metal detector usually beeped like that, but most of the time it was a false alarm. In this case, for example, she had found a simple tin can. However, she decided to dig a little because you never know what you might find. She carefully dug deeper and deeper into the ground until she saw a yellowish piece of metal. Then her heart began to pound because it didn't look like what she was used to seeing. She kept digging deeper until other club members joined her as they saw how busy she was. Suddenly, she came across other small metal objects and screamed. She realized that it was indeed something out of the ordinary and could be something very special. She later said it was one of the most beautiful moments of her life. Out of the sandy ground came several gold jewels with beautiful ornaments and precious stones, a total of 23 pieces. It was like in a movie, that's how beautiful it looked, and the best part was it was totally real. According to Danish law, if you make an archaeological discovery in the country, you have to inform the authorities. So Therese called the Vegel Museum, and scientist Max Round immediately set about examining the objects. The gems had beautiful decorations on them that I had never seen before. They looked like Roman decorations. The more he looked at the props, the more excited he became. It was a real jackpot, he said. The jewels dated back to before the Vikings, and the big question was whether they were buried there for safekeeping or whether they were a sacrifice to the gods. At that time, there had just been a huge volcanic eruption in El Salvador. But what does this have to do with Denmark? Well, it happened on the other side of the Atlantic, but the Europeans in that area could feel the consequences for months. The volcanic ash cloud caused great darkness in northern Europe, which triggered a kind of mini ice age, and many crops perished. A bad harvest back then meant famine and much suffering. Perhaps the buried treasures were an attempt to appease the gods of the time so that the sun would return. The true history of these jewels remains unknown, but archaeologists are very happy with the find. The area was still littered with other artifacts, so an archaeological team from the museum returned to the site to continue excavating. They found other precious objects. The fake gold in the Philippines. A group of young people recently believed they had found a great treasure in a cave during a walk. These boys did not know that a surprise awaited them. The stones in the cave seemed to be covered with gold dust. They immediately returned to their village and informed the authorities. Days later, they returned to the site accompanied by geologists, convinced they had struck gold. Samples of the dust were collected, but the subsequent analysis brought disappointing news. It wasn't gold, but rather bacteria. This specific type fries without light, sporting a yellowish hue. Due to their water-repelling properties, droplets interact uniquely, lending them a shiny, gold-like appearance under light. On a brighter note, authorities are contemplating converting the cave into a tourist attraction. NASA has also shown interest, suggesting these organisms might survive on Mars. Could this herald another remarkable discovery for the future? What are your thoughts? Have you unearthed something extraordinary? Share your stories in the comments, and remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest stories. Thank you.